I've lived through many things in the time I followed Formula One, but I never thought something like this would happen. I remember the negative surprise I felt when Formula One changed the rear wings of the cars and made them tiny. It was almost painful to look at, so ugly. When the halo arrived, it also caused surprise the first few times we saw it. And up to that point, you could understand why they did what they did. The new wings provided much more stability for the car. The halo brought safety for the driver. We've even seen drivers saved by it. But something I never imagined seeing in Formula One in the name of competitiveness was the complete abandonment of identity by the teams. Cars that didn't even have the color black in their composition are now practically covered in it, often blending in with other cars on the track. Even Ferrari, which has always clung to its roots, has surrendered to the color black, and now almost 50% of the car is no longer red, as it always was. But there's an explanation for this, and the explanation is simple: the weight of the car. Anyone who has followed Formula One for a long time knows that teams do everything to minimize the weight of the car so they can distribute it in other ways. A master at this is Adrian Newey, the designer who recently stepped away from Red Bull with his famous doodads. To try to make lighter cars, teams have been leaving parts of the cars unpainted, exposing the carbon fiber composition. This is the case with Mercedes. Much of the new car's black appearance is carbon fiber, not paint. We were overweight last year. This year, we tried to find a way to remove every gram. Now, the story repeats itself. You can see that the car has some raw carbon, alongside some that are painted matte black, highlighted Mercedes CEO and team principal Toto Wolff, recalling the history of the silver Mercedes cars. According to Wolff, removing the paint was the answer to solving the excess weight diagnosed in the W13, just as Mercedes did decades ago. Thus, the team was faced with a look that was successful between 2020 and 2021. So we came back, tried to take weight off the car from all sides, and then, we committed to saving some grams by leaving the car in carbon. The story repeats itself, but, in this case, it's a modern material, carbon, and not aluminum, and it's black, described Toto Wolff. When we changed our livery in 2020, the main reason was our support for diversity and equality causes, which are always close to our hearts. The color black became part of our DNA at that moment, so we're happy to return to it, emphasized Mercedes CEO and team principal Toto Wolff. The car was white, overweight, much like our car last year, and they scraped off the paint and ended up with exposed aluminum, which made the car hit the weight, he added. Mercedes' case is the most striking, but teams like McLaren and Alpine also have darker looks in 2023 than in the previous season. And it won't be strange if other teams take advantage of the beginning of the year to remove paint from cars in search of more generous results on the scale. What has shocked the audience the most is Ferrari's case, the Italian team that has always kept its roots, with the car completely red, manufacturing its own engine, and with most of its team being Italian employees. And, as much as the team's decision makes sense, it's a bit sad to imagine that the identity of the teams is being thrown away for the sake of performance improvement. What makes us root is precisely the identity. We root for drivers from our country. We root for the team from our country. We wear the colors of these teams. What happens when the color of all teams is the same, and all that's left is just the logo? I believe Formula One has always sought to deliver identity to the public. It has always tried to create a strong brand where people can hold on, with emblematic teams and historical rivalries. In 2007, I was rooting for Lewis Hamilton, who was driving for the team I supported, McLaren, and for me, that was simply the most beautiful car in the history of Formula One. And that chrome in the paint, it was the trademark, not only of the team but also of the manufacturer. Whenever we imagine a Mercedes, the first image that comes to mind is a silver car. And I was a McLaren fan from 2007 to 2016, and as silly as it may seem, I stopped rooting when McLaren changed its colors. Of course, it wasn't the first time. McLaren has had many colors, but that change practically made the connection I had with the team disappear. To me, it wasn't the same team anymore. So I ended up not rooting for any other team and found out that I was indeed passionate about Formula One. I continued watching because I love the sport. But still, I can't come to terms with the fact that when I look at the starting grid, I see cars that are increasingly similar, with similar colors, and the original colors of the cars have become just a detail amid the smooth carbon that makes up the car structure. And, as much as I've never been a fan of Ferrari, seeing it almost 50% without the red colors hurt me the most. Ferrari is a force of nature. When we think of Ferrari, we think of the color red. When we think of the color red, we think of Ferrari. And this adds to the fact that it's a team that has always sought to maintain its originality, has always had creation and work standards that have been sustained since Enzo Ferrari. Few times has Ferrari changed anything, and most of the time, it was in homage to something or someone. Like the blue details in homage to the 70 years since the manufacturer entered the US. Of course, Formula One is the prototype of everything that is best in world motorsport. It's where things happen that ordinary humans wouldn't imagine could happen, so it's natural that changes occur, and they may not turn out as we'd like. This video was more of a vent than an analysis. I don't have a solution. Maybe the FIA could put inspectors at the time of vehicle production and deduct from the total weight what goes from paint in each car. That way, it would help maintain the identity of the teams and the equality of competitiveness. But what remains for us is to do what we do best, which is to root. I sincerely hope that the FIA manages to come up with a rule that allows teams to maintain their identity. What differentiates one car from another? Because I don't want the norm for us fans to be distinguishing teams by the drivers' helmets.